Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm going to be giving you some tips that I've learned from my solo travels over the past few years. I feel like each solo trip has taught me so many new things and I just wanted to share them with you. I'm not like a worldwide solo traveler yet, but I've been to a few solo trips in the US and then I've been to Canada, and then I just finished my first solo trip to Europe and I was in Italy, so I just posted a vlog from that. But yeah, the first thing that I would recommend going into your first solo trip, especially if it's to a country where they don't speak your language, is to learn like the basics of that language. Like learning the words hi or like hello or please or goodbye or just general sayings that they say in that area. I think it's really important to learn those because in a lot of countries, especially in Europe, people do speak English, but that's not going to be their first language. So it's more helpful for you to go up to them speaking their language first and then maybe switching to English later. But if you just know like those basics, I feel like you'll be able to just blend in more, and it's more respectful of the place that you're going just to know those basic words. Like I would say thank you and hello are the biggest ones. And even just gaining like a beginner knowledge of the language I feel like is great too. Like I just used Duolingo for like a year or two before going to Italy. And it really helped me just for like seeing signs, like knowing what words mean, or like being able to navigate the trains and things like that. Just having those basic like beginner level of the language is super helpful. And I would definitely recommend that instead of like going in knowing nothing, because if someone doesn't know any of your language, it's going to be really hard. And obviously there is like Google Translate and stuff, but I feel like that's just a little awkward, I guess, when you're trying to talk to someone, and that's more of like a last case scenario. So definitely learning the language, or at least the basics, is extremely helpful. Going off of that, I feel like it's really important to understand like the culture that you're going into and like the customs there, especially from the US. Like going to Europe, just the traditions, the culture is extremely different. Like even like coffee culture, like in the US, everyone, it's just like get takeout coffee, you get your coffee to go, you take it with you wherever you're going. But in Italy, like they just drink their espresso like right at the counter of the cafe that you're going to. And that's something just from my research going into it, like had to learn. So it's just little customs like that so that you're not like confused, I guess, when you get there of what you're walking into. Just knowing like those basic norms. And like even in Italy, like with restaurant culture, like I feel like in the US, it's very like quick service, like here's your food, like here's your bill. But in Italy, people just go to restaurants kind of to chill and like hang out with people. So they don't really bring you the bill like unless you ask them for it. So you have to know that. And just knowing that it's going to be a lot longer of a meal than in the US. And obviously, I don't know where you guys live, but if you're in the US, you know that it's like very quick to eat out somewhere because it's just like that hustle culture here, I guess. So learning those cultural norms is extremely helpful just so that you can fit in and know what to expect and not be wondering why things are a certain way. And I also find it helpful to just look into what the style is of the city. I feel like that's really important depending on what country you're going to. But like in Italy, I looked into the style and noticed how people don't really wear like denim shorts like in the US, and people dress a lot fancier and nicer every single day. And I feel like that just helps when you're packing to know, I mean, if you wanna I guess if you don't really care about like fitting in or standing out, it doesn't really matter what you bring. But I don't know. I like to know like what the culture is, what the vibes are, so that I can at least try to be more similar to the vibes there. So that's a big one as well. Okay, another huge one just going into your solo trip that I feel like you should know is, even if you plan your itinerary to a T and have all these great ideas, things will still go wrong because there's just things that you can't expect, like especially with public transportation. Like for me, when I first got to Italy, I took the wrong train from the airport to get to my hotel and ended up in a completely random area. Even though I had done so much research about how to take the train, I was just like tired from my overnight flight and just didn't do my best job at like navigating which train I was supposed to take, so I took the completely wrong train. And it's just things like that. Or like one day when I was there, it just started raining while I was out, and then that kind of like ruined my plans for the night. And also just like you may meet people there and your plans will change. So just knowing that even if you have an itinerary, things will go wrong. So keep that in mind and just don't be too hard on yourself if they do go wrong, because just expect it. Because with travel in general, and especially solo travel, like, and when you're in a completely new country and in a new setting, like things are not going to be like your routine, and it's just bound for things to go wrong. And I just feel like while I was on my solo trip to Italy, whenever things did go wrong, I was so hard on myself. Like even like one day I feel like I wore the wrong shoes and my feet hurt all day, and I was like, oh, why'd I wear these? Or why didn't I take enough time to rest today? But it's just, you got to have a lot of grace for yourself, because you're completely navigating this whole new country on your own, and it's just bound for things to go wrong. Like, we're human and not everything's perfect. So please don't be too hard on yourself if things do feel like they're going wrong, because I feel like that's just part of the adventure. And when you're back home, you'll realize how thankful you are for getting through those challenges. And solo travel made me feel like I could do anything. Like now that I feel like I've navigated another country and like traveled completely on my own, like halfway across the world, it really gives you a new sense of confidence in yourself. And I appreciate that so much. Because now that I'm back in the US, like smaller things, I'm like, oh, I can do that. Like I've done this whole solo trip on my own. Like I feel like so much more capable. And I think that's like such a great part of solo traveling. And when you're in the moment during your trip, it can feel like things are really hard. But it's not until you get back home when you're like, wow, like I did that. I'm so proud of myself. And if you aren't feeling that way while you're there, just know that's normal, because you're in the thick of it, you're in the process. But when you get back, you'll definitely realize what a blessing it was. And yeah, going off of that, like taking the wrong train or things going wrong, I would also say it's really helpful to, and this is probably intuitive, but just stay close to public transportation if you can, like when you're picking your hotel or your hostel. Because I feel like that just makes it a lot easier, especially if you are going to be traveling to a bunch of different cities. Just staying close to like a main terminal station is really helpful. Or even just staying, like if you map out where all you're going before your trip, staying just close to where all those places are is really helpful. Because especially with Rome, it's a lot of walking. And I was really happy that the hotel that I picked was really close to a lot of the things I wanted to do. So just keeping that in mind when you're like booking your hotel, just to make sure it's close to things and close to public transportation is just another little tip there. And another thing is, you will get lonely. Like there's no doubt that you will experience moments of loneliness, and it's a different type of lonely when you don't speak the language of the people there. It's just a different type of loneliness, and that's just something to keep in mind. And I feel like something that helped me was just talking to people like at the stores or at the restaurants to kind of like help with that loneliness, and also booking tours. Like I booked a Colosseum tour, and even though I was alone, it still helps you to like be around other people. And I feel like tours really help with the loneliness, and that's something I'll do more of next time I travel, is booking more tours. And maybe even staying in a hostel, because I always stayed in hotels. But just finding opportunities to be around other people is going to be really helpful for the loneliness. Another thing is like the eating out part of it can be a little awkward when you're alone. I found eating out to be probably the hardest part about being solo in Italy, because it'd always be like couples or families around me. So I just recommend going at like off times, or not going to super fancy places, because it felt way less awkward at like chiller places, or even like places where you can get stuff to go. I feel like it's a lot more helpful for solo travel. I mean, I ended up overcoming it. Like I was able to still go to those nicer restaurants by myself, but I do just think that's something you need to mentally prepare for, that it feels different when you're not in your own country and you're eating alone. I don't know, I just found that to be the hardest part, and something that I recommend mentally preparing for, and maybe not planning like super fancy dinners, just doing more takeaway type of stuff or chiller restaurants is what I would recommend. Another thing that I feel like I briefly mentioned is always take time to rest during the day, because there was one day where I didn't take any time to rest, and it threw me off like the whole day. Like my mood was horrible. I feel like just when you're walking around the entire day and getting like 30K steps a day, you need rest, especially if it's summer, like in the hot sun. So every day I'd recommend taking at least a couple hours back in your hotel to just recharge, because it'll affect you the whole rest of the day. It'll affect your mental health because we just need rest. And I know it can be hard if you're like out exploring and your hotel is far away, but I just really recommend like putting that into your day when you're creating your itinerary, because it helps so much to have that time and it'll set you up for success for the rest of the trip. Another thing that I feel like I briefly wanted to touch on is the beauty standards in other countries, because obviously every country has their own beauty standards, and I definitely felt like the people in Italy were some of the prettiest people I've ever seen in my life, and was definitely like comparing myself to them. And so that's just another thing that you need to mentally prepare yourself for, that you might not be the beauty standard of the place you're going. And it sounds so silly, but you will find yourself comparing to yourself to others because we are human. And I just feel like that's something else to mentally prepare for as well. And I don't really have any tips other than building up your own self-confidence, but just wanted to briefly touch on that because that's definitely something I noticed. But yeah, I think these are all my tips for now. I just wanted to say, like I kind of said, in the moment when you're there, you'll feel tired, it'll feel exhausting, things may be going wrong, and you won't realize how powerful you feel until you get back. Like, you won't realize how transformative the trip was until you get back. Unless it's like a chiller trip to just like another place in your country, it might not feel this dramatic, but this is more for those trips where it's like to a whole new country, a new culture, and things like that. But I definitely think if you have that itch to solo travel, it is definitely worth trying it. Maybe just start with like a smaller trip first and start building your way up. That's what I did. And I feel like that helped a lot because it helps you to slowly gain that confidence. But yeah, if you're interested in solo travel, I definitely think it's worth it. If you have any questions, just feel free to ask me in the comments. I love talking about this stuff, and I think it's so important for women to solo travel because we never had this opportunity in the past. Only a few decades ago did women start having this type of independence, and that's why I enjoy doing this, because I feel like I'm doing it for the previous generations of women who couldn't do this. So it's very much worth it to do this, and it's very healing and empowering, and I just wish you the best if you're going on your first solo trip. Love to hear where you guys have solo traveled before, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys. And thank you so much for watching this video.